I'm really excited to dive into today's event for us all to learn about how to unlearn habits that limit our success. A core goal of Dreamers and Doers is to amplify you and your journeys, and intimate educational sessions like today's, filled with insights thanks to your fellow members, are the perfect opportunity for us to up-level together. So before we officially begin, I want to share a bit of background information on our esteemed expert. Brooke is an ex-Googler who supports women at companies such as Goldman Sachs, Uber, Coinbase, Meta, and more with their career transitions. She has been featured in Women's Health, Forbes, Business Insider, and more. Her transformational group coaching programs and workshops at companies like Google, Uber, the BBC, and McKinsey have changed the lives of over 5,000 women globally. Brooke is the global expert in a phenomenon she coined the success wound, which is the pain high achievers experience when they mistake their success for their self-worth. She has developed a powerful methodology that has helped thousands of high achievers heal their success wound and finally have a career that feels both fulfilling and successful. Previously, Brooke was the head of operations at a global DEI consultancy, the Dream Collective. She's lived in 5 countries before settling into her home state of California with her husband. So with that, I will hand it over to you, Brooke. We are so excited to learn from your expertise today. We know how valuable your time is, and we're so grateful to you for investing in the Dreamers and Doers Collective in this way.
Thanks, Hannah. And thank you everyone for joining. I'm so happy to see you guys. I was just telling Hannah before we started that the last time I did a event workshop office hours was 2019 when I first joined this community. And since then, Dreamers and Doers has helped me meet one of my best friends in LA who choreographed my wedding dance. Her name is Brielle. I've been featured in multiple outlets thanks to Adrian and Hannah and all of their excellent work. A woman named Lindsay McMillan, who I'm friends with, helped me write my book proposal that landed me a book agent. So I'm so grateful to this community, and I'm happy to be here together with all of you incredible women. So here is what we're talking about today. Today is going to be very actionable. We're probably going to come off mute a few times because we don't have a big group today, which is excellent. It's going to be really engaging. So if it's possible to take your camera off, awesome. And we can do a lot of Q&A and exercises together. So here's where we're going for the next 90 minutes. Or excuse me, 50 minutes, not 90 minutes, although I'm happy to stay on afterwards if there are any questions. So we're going to help you discover your unique success strategy archetype that is constantly sabotaging your chances of career fulfillment and business success, and exactly what you need to do in order to overcome it. We're going to help you get this psychological super hack used by top performers to create a super mind that breaks through fear and limitation. I'm going to help you uncover how to tap into what I call an unlimited inner resource of fulfillment and confidence that you've always wanted but could never fully grasp. And I'm going to help you unlock the secret to building a career based on deep self-worth and unshakable conviction. And before we go any further, just for me to know, if you want to just drop into the chat, I'm curious about what kind of career you're in, who's running a business, who's full-time, who's side hustling, who's still might be in a 9-to-5. If you just want to drop that into the chat, that will help me make everything a lot more relevant, and we can get a sense of where everyone's at. Awesome. Thanks, Adrian. Good to see you. Full-time running business. So a little bit about me. I want to take my, in addition to Hannah's great intro, I wanted to share a little bit more about me kind of behind the scenes and a little bit deeper. So my name is Brooke. I'm a transformational career coach for conscious corporate women. I also work a lot with entrepreneurs, and I've worked with, I think about 10 women within Dreamers and Doers in a one-to-one capacity in the past and in my group coaching programs. And over the last 3.5 years, I've helped over 5,000 women to align their ambition to their purpose so that they can have the success and fulfillment that they desire. I've seen these women land their dream jobs, secure funding, start businesses, recover from debilitating burnout, publish their memoirs, find the loves of their lives, step into new levels of confidence, and more. And As mentioned, I run group coaching programs in a corporate context, which is safe to say I'm a bit of an expert in this kind of overachieving woman. And before this, before my life supporting other women, I was a marketing lead at Google, advising CMOs. And I went through my own process of recovering from burnout and being addicted to external validation, and in some instances, alcohol, and my work hard, play hard lifestyle, which I'll get into in a second, and how I was able to recover from that and build success on my own terms. So I want to do a little bit of a call and response, and I want you to drop into the chat, or if you're off camera, I want you to raise your hand and tell me if this resonates with you. Do you have a case of what I call the when I haves? So it might sound like, when I have hit 2000K users, then I can relax. Or when I have finished this round of funding, then I'll feel proud. Or when I have finished that project, then I will feel successful. Does that resonate with anybody? Feel free to drop it in the chat and say that's me if that resonates with you. A case of the when I haves is very common for highly ambitious people. Yep. So does this sound familiar? Do you tend to compare yourself to other friends when they're talking about their big achievements and wonder, am I doing enough? Maybe at a summer barbecue this summer, or a cocktail party, or maybe even on Dreamers and Doers when people are kind of shouting out their success and you're thinking, damn, am I doing enough? Does that resonate with anyone? That might be overworking and hustling to prove your worth to peers, to managers, and maybe even to people you don't care about. You can't really stop this notion of kind of needing to prove yourself and getting that external validation. That's a yes. And you're like, I don't even care. I don't even care about these people, but why do I need them to like me? You might be a work hard, play hard. You want to live life to the fullest, but you still kind of feel like something's missing. Does that resonate with anyone? Chasing all these kind of peak achievements, peak experiences, and still feeling like something's missing. You might feel like you have a family, which is mentioned in the chat, or you're about to start a family and you're not sure about how you can do it all and be it all to anyone. This is top of mind for me as I'm thinking about starting a family for sure. What about this one? Trying all the tips and tricks for peak performance, but still feel like you're falling behind. I don't know about you, but trying to optimize your schedule and optimize everything, but still feel like it's not working. Maybe giving so much time to mentees, colleagues, friends, but not enough time to yourself. You might be having a nagging fear of waking up with regret when it's too late. This is a big one that I hear. Does that resonate with anyone? This nagging fear of waking up with regret before it's too late. Consumed by racing workplace anxieties, even as you close your eyes before bed or in your spin class, you're wondering, because you are juggling so many balls, running a business full time, that kind of racing thoughts, they can't escape you. Does that resonate with everyone? So it sounds like, if you're anything like me and the people who resonated with this in the chat, you might have done a couple things to solve this in the past. You've probably read some self-help books. You might have taken a leadership course. Maybe you've done traditional coaching, but in some ways you couldn't translate this into action in your life and kind of fix the real problem underneath all of this. And what we want to get to today is understanding the real root cause and reason as to why you identified with some of these toxic patterns. But here's the thing, everything that you just identified with, all those toxic patterns and habits that I just mentioned, what I'm here to tell you today is actually that none of this is your fault. And I find that to be a bit of a relief. And the explanation and solution that I'm going to offer you today, it's new. You've probably never heard of it before. And as a result, you're going to see yourself differently. And when you do, you won't be able to unsee it, and you won't be able to miss it again. So I'm going to be showing you the initial steps that you need to take in order to change this experience for you. So I'm going to stop my screen share, and I'm actually going to go change my camera orientation here because I'm going to use a couple props to explain this phenomenon with my green background. When I changed offices, I knew I wanted a green background. So here's the thing. One thing that you probably didn't know is that you have 3 parts or 3 selves that are constantly at odds with each other and keeping you stuck in these very loops and toxic patterns that you just identified. So you see, when you were born whole and complete, thinking all of your needs would be met. You were born into what I call your true self, this little guy here. So I want you to think of an image of yourself as very young, very innocent child, very authentic, maybe a bit feisty, free, expressive, but authentically you. I have an image of myself when I was like 6, and this is my true self. I have like paint all over my face. I'm running on the playground and just absolutely joyful. So you have this true self that you're born as. And as life tends to do, through somewhere along the way, you learn that the world isn't safe and that all your needs can't be met. And in this moment, there's kind of a splintering within you, and it creates two different parts of yourself. And the first one I call the wounded self. So the wounded self, think of it as a part of you as almost like a small child who hurts and becomes hurt and melts onto the floor. And when she's hurt, it might be because she wasn't picked up when she was crying, or when your siblings got more attention than you, or when you were proud of something and you didn't get the reaction or the love that you were hoping for, or at school you were reprimanded for being expressive or wiggling. Whatever that is, this creates a pain, a wound. And at that same moment, this third part was created, and I call that your protector self. So you can think of this as standing in front of this small child on the floor, standing with its arms in front of this kind of wilted small one, and says, no matter what, I'm going to protect you and keep you safe. And as you go through life, this protector self that's within you right now creates so many strategies to keep you safe and free from experiencing the pain. And some of those strategies, tell me if this sounds familiar, are people pleasing, because you learned that people like you at school more when you were agreeable and that felt safe. Perfectionism, because if you got it just right, people wouldn't think of you as a failure. Maybe focusing on other people's needs ahead of your own, because you learned that when you put other people's needs first, you made sure that they weren't mad at you. And again, this felt safe. You were able to create that connection and attachment. Overworking so that people didn't think you were dead weight, so that mom and dad would be proud of you. It goes on and on. Controlling, anger issues, impatience, not standing up for yourself, overeating, overexercising, overdrinking, overworking, et cetera, et cetera. So this protector self, it gets bigger and bigger and more powerful as it comes up with more and more strategies to live up to its primary function and promise of keeping this part safe. Meanwhile, this wounded self, this little baby here, it stays stuck and small on the floor, not getting the love and attention that it actually needs. And yet remember, there's still this third self in the room, this true self, the part of you that is eternal and knows that you've done nothing wrong. It's compiled of all of your essential goodness. She knows what she wants and how to get it. This true self, it gets pushed further and further and away into the corner as this protector self gets bigger and bigger and takes up more and more space. Now, this true self, it whispers to you, trying to get you to remember what you always knew. It talks to you through things like your intuition or your body, through quiet thoughts, through nudges. And you partially ache for this self because somewhere unconsciously you remember what it was like to live as this true self, feeling free and curious and compassionate and knowing exactly what she wants and trusts herself to get it. So these three selves, they're constantly alive within you. And this is why you feel some sort of inner struggle. It's these three selves that are at odds. You probably weren't aware of the wounded self. You're probably also not particularly aware of the protector self and the role that it's playing as it sabotages your career fulfillment, your business satisfaction, etc. So how does this sabotage your career and your business life? So somewhere along the way, you learned that you weren't good enough unless you were achieving and succeeding. And this created a deep pain that I call the success wound. And the success wound, it's one of many wounds that created the wounded self. And it's the pain that comes from thinking that your worthiness of love and belonging is contingent upon what you produce, achieve, and do, rather than the inherent goodness of who you are. And I wonder if that resonates with anyone. So this protector self, all of these strategies, it starts to come forward and it starts chasing external validation through perfecting and achievement. And listen, these protector strategies, they worked for a while, right? But now somewhere along the way, they probably have stopped working. And they've stopped working because you're here today and you're wanting to unlearn the habits that are sabotaging your chances of fulfillment and success. Because if you identified with any of those symptoms in the beginning, and no matter what you do, maybe there's a part of it that never feels like enough, and it still doesn't feel good enough. So because you're not aware of the pain of the wound and the strategies of your protector self, you find yourself stuck, maybe lacking some meaning and some fulfillment, and desperately trying to get the approval and belonging from the people, places, and things that can never give you what you actually need. So it's not your fault. Again, you haven't learned how to relate to these parts and how to make them work as a team. So this isn't taught at school or in your master's program or by your bosses or by your coach. And you weren't shown how to do this. So it makes sense that you weren't able to solve this problem. And the other element here is that this is all happening in your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind controls 95% of your behavior. Your conscious mind, that's the part of you that actually wants that fulfillment and contentment, but that's only 5 to 10% of your brain power. So unless you have the right tools to first access your subconscious mind and bring your subconscious mind in line with your conscious one, then that kind of sense of deep satisfaction and contentment, it's always going to elude you. So I know you all are very smart people, and as soon as you know how to fix something, you can do it and overcome this. So this is exactly what we're going to be doing today. And this is what I help my clients do, is heal this internal system. So what needs to happen is that we need to go in and feel the pain of the wound itself, allow this protector self to step aside such that the true self can lead the system. And after coaching hundreds of women like you, I've discovered that there are kind of 5 main strategies that your protector self uses in order to get success. And I call them archetypes. And I'm going to help you diagnose and identify what yours is right now. And we're going to discuss it. And in my coaching programs, like my group coaching program, Finally Fulfilled, we work through all 3 of these selves, how your wounded self, protector self, and true self show up in your work life and in your leadership life. But today we're only going to primarily go through the protector self to give you some pretty big aha moments. I want to pause to see if there are any questions around that so far, and then we'll go into the diagnosis phase, diagnosing your protector self. So this is where the quiz comes in. So I want to make sure that everybody has their quiz results handy. And if you haven't taken the quiz, excuse my video, it's in the chat. It's brooketaylor.com/quiz. And now that we're kind of back, perfect. Thank you so much. I want you to be able to take that quiz, and we'll go into diagnosing what your unique success strategy archetype is. We're going to come off mute. We're going to do a bit of discussion. So if you want to bring your video back up front, this is going to be really involved and engaging. So as mentioned, we want to get you into diagnosing your success archetype. So if you haven't taken that quiz already, please do so. And let's go into talking about what these 5 archetypes of protector strategies are and how you can overcome them in order to have greater fulfillment. So the first one is the grinder. Tell me who resonated, who got this grinder one. This is the person that wants to have more, do more, be more. They never feel good enough despite their successes. This is the person that feels completely exhausted from the hustle and grind. They regularly find themselves in burnout or overwhelm, and they're known as the get shit done person, and they love it. These are great people to have on your team. I think most entrepreneurs fall into this category. I won't say most, I'll say the plurality fall into this category. So who is our grinder? 25% grinder, 50% grinder. Yeah, makes sense. So as you take the quiz, you'll see kind of what your primary archetype is. We contain multitudes. None of us are singularly one thing. So it makes sense that you'd have maybe a lot of these different ones. But for those of you who've taken this quiz, it looks like we have a few grinders here, or at least partial grinders. Anyone else? Anyone else relate to this grinder one? Great. So let's move on to the second one. This one is the hider. So this is the person that kills it at their role and kills it in business, but tends to keep it small and safe. They fear failure and they fear going outside their comfort zone. They succeed, but only so much. They tend to compare themselves to people taking risks and wish that they could do that too. Does anybody relate with that hider part? Morgan, yes. And I think for entrepreneurs and people running their business, this part is maybe lurking a little bit behind the scenes for a lot of us, wondering, okay, how far should I be pushing it outside of my comfort zone? And thinking, and there's this protector strategy that says, if I keep it in my comfort zone or just kind of follow the kind of set entrepreneurial path, I can keep it safe, right? So let's go on to the third one. This is the lost a lot, or I call this the seeker. This is the person that's constantly in some sort of an existential crisis. They tend to get to a certain level of success and then they get bored. So they're unsure what they want in their life, and they tend to compare themselves and their careers and their lives and tend to feel a little bit less than. So they're always thinking that the next thing is going to solve it. Is anybody in this lost a lot phase? Interesting. 22% lost a lot. Anybody else? This tends to come up a lot with folks who are in corporate and they're kind of like on that corporate wheel and they're not sure where they need to go or what they need to do. So maybe less relevant for this group. 25%. Interesting. Okay. Now we go into the pleaser. So this one is probably where I tend to fall most of the time these days. So the pleaser, that is the person that tends to always overwork or go back on their boundaries to please the boss or their colleagues or their clients. Big one. They're always fearful and stressed about relationships at work and beyond. They tend to regularly put others ahead of themselves, only as good as their last piece of feedback from a superior or from a client. Hypervigilant and anxious in all of their relationships. These folks can tend to have a little bit of codependency, people pleasing, and a little bit of social anxiety. Does that relate to anyone? 55% pleaser. Okay, Adrian. So it sounds like your primary one. Anybody else? Amanda, 25%. Okay, so it looks like this is like your secondary, Amanda. That makes sense. Excellent. So this work hard, play hard. This is the person that wants to be their best at all things and live life to the fullest. They want all the peak experiences and they're constantly keeping themselves busy so that they don't have to look at themselves. They tend to numb out in healthy habits, but call it balance, living for the weekend or for the vacation. This was me when I was climbing the corporate ladder in my 20s, very much addicted to alcohol and in some instances, other unhealthy patterns, and using that as a way to blow off steam. So now that we've all kind of identified what our archetypes are, what our primary ones, and again, we tend to contain multitudes. So I want us now to go into what our story is around these protector archetypes. So, my archetype used to be the work hard, play hard. And as a result of having that work hard, play hard, my protector strategy told me that if I'm not progressing, then I'm falling behind. And if I'm not the best, I'm the worst. A drink will fix that. God, I can't wait until Friday. Let's book a trip. And when I believed this protector archetype story, I constantly needed validation to feel good enough. I used to compete and compare myself to others, which of course in turn made me feel anxious, exhausted, nervous, unworthy. And it further impacted me through crippling self-doubt, playing small, overworking, turning to alcohol and partying. So this was the impact that my protector self, when it was running my system, had on me. I thought my protector self was trying to help me be successful, but in fact, it was draining me of my power and my life force. So now it's your turn. And I want you to pull out a piece of paper. If you don't have it already, I'd love it to be a physical piece of paper. It can be a note on your computer if needed, but we're going to do a little bit of a writing reflection, and then I'm going to call on people to share back. So this is going to be pretty interactive, and I'll turn the prompts as we go. So at the top of the page, I want you to write, what is your success strategy archetype? What's your primary success strategy archetype? What's the one that you got most of? Is it the pleaser, the grinder, the work hard, play hard, the hider? Which one is that? What are its favorite thoughts and phrases? So mine were, if I'm not the best, I'm the worst. What does it make you believe? What are some of the beliefs of this protector strategy and this protector archetype? And when it's running your life, how do you feel? So I'll give you a few minutes here to answer this question, and then we'll go over to the next prompt. What we're doing here is evaluating the impact, the consequences of having this system be run by our protector strategies, such that we can create awareness around it and then heal it. So that's what we're doing first. Welcome, Jessica. We're just doing some exercises now.
Thanks.
Yeah, if you haven't already taken the quiz, you can go ahead and do that. It's in the chat. Thank you. Take 30 more seconds here. Make sure that you're going on to question number 3. When it's running your life, how do you feel? Anxious, exhausted, not good enough, nervous, maybe powerful, maybe uncertain, maybe good 30% of the time, but 70% of the time it's tough. How does that make you feel? What are the emotional consequences of this protector strategy? Now let's go on to the second part here. So as a result, it makes me take these actions and exemplify these behaviors. What are the behaviors that come out of this protector strategy? For me, it was working really hard Monday to Friday, crashing on Saturday, cracking jokes at other people's expense to turn the attention onto me. I needed to be the center of attention, booking expensive trips that I'm not even present for. I'm over drinking or thinking about coming back to work and having that be anxiety producing for me, exaggerating my accomplishments on dates, which in turn made me feel even more lonely, unworthy, and lost. And methods that I've tried in the past to stop my success archetype or this protector self from running my life: cleanses, therapy, healers, meditation, self-help books, New Year's resolutions, all of the above. So what are these for you? Look at the systemic kind of consequences. Take another minute or two here. And now let's look at the ripple effects. What are those systemic consequences in the rest of your life when the protector strategy is running the show? How does this impact your thoughts, your feelings, behaviors, and your money and finances? How does it impact your physical and mental health? And how does it impact your love and your relationships? Again, so in my example, in fact, I always had enough money and finances, but it never felt like enough. I'd go on sprees, which I would later regret. I'd be afraid to develop a financial strategy because I wasn't sure of the whole picture. In my physical and mental health, I had anxiety and looping thoughts. I was nervous about how other people perceived me. I was like, is everyone mad at me? What are people thinking? In love and relationships, I had a hard time finding true connection because I didn't feel like the real me. I wasn't sure who I was underneath all the busyness. And so I didn't allow people to get close. I had some friends and connections felt good, but others felt a bit outdated and stale. So let's take a moment here to look at the consequences of this. Where else does this protector strategy show up, and how is this wreaking havoc on other areas of your life that might be draining your power and contentment in other areas? How does people pleasing show up in money and finances? How does the hider show up in love and relationships? These are great questions to be asking. So I'd love to have a little bit of a discussion, a few minutes. I'd love to hear what came up for you in some of these answers. If somebody wants to share some of their answers, share what surprised them, share about the ripple effects, I'd love to hear it. Feel free to come off mute, or I can call on people. What came up for you?
I can go. This is Allie. I'll take
Hey,
myself. Hi. So I actually got 25% of grinder, hider, and lost a lot.
Interesting.
I'm a Libra. So anytime I take like any quiz, I feel like there is a lot of like balance throughout. There's never one that's just the clear. But the one of those three that I think that I used for this exercise and identified with the most is the grinder. And I'll just kind of run through my notes.
Yes.
I grew up with a dad who's a doctor. I have a lot of friends who are lawyers. I'm like the only one on this entrepreneurial path. Even though I'm new to it, I've been in corporate before. And so kind of the thoughts I've had is to make a lot of money, or the kind of money I want to make, I have to work. I have to either have a traditional job or work really long hours, like not have a lot of work-life balance. Makes me feel exhausted, overwhelmed, and just doesn't sit well with me. I don't remember the prompts for some of these notes, but yeah, I just kind of associate it with like working long hour, or how it impacts me is like I work longer hours than is maybe needed or comfortable with. For me, a lot of busy work just to be working. I feel guilty relaxing, even though I genuinely need a lot of downtime, I think. I've tried to solve it, I guess, with self-help books, similar to what you had put in yours. How I think it's impacted my mental is I've just never felt like, I've never felt like enough. And I always took lower paying jobs because I associated that with not having to work is hard.
Interesting.
And a lack of confidence and lower self-worth. And then the love one, I kind of had a hard time, I guess maybe feeling like attracted to higher achievers. Seeing that as the success.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Allie. Had you ever kind of connected these dots before, put this all together in this way? What was that like for you?
I have definitely connected been able to see the reasoning why I've settled in the past for lower paying jobs or not negotiated what I now feel like is my worth.
Yeah.
But other things I've definitely had revelation. I had revelations working through this and see that there's still a lot I need to work on, especially in this entrepreneurial path where it's like, I'm doing it all right now. But intuitively, I'm like, I know I need to actually step back a little bit more, and that's probably going to help my business more.
Right. And we'll talk specific strategies that you can implement today to move from being motivated by protector and wounding and into wholeness. And I don't want to pathologize your worth ethic or anybody's worth ethic. But how can you work sustainably and work from a place of wholeness rather than trying to prove? And that's what I think is interesting here. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, this is really cool.
Amanda, did you want to share?
Sure. I archetype grinder. And I have been working on this for the last couple of years. I'm now an entrepreneur. I left my old job because I was completely burnt out, started my company in 2021 and have been I have a big fear of going back into the grind. But I think what's new with me is that I have a kid now and I'm trying to figure out entrepreneurship, motherhood, and that's, I feel brought up a lot of things going through that. So same with Allie, my dad. It was work hard, I played baseball and he was the only way you're going to beat the boys as a kid was you'll out hustle every single one of them. So that was my mantra all growing up, was just to out hustle. So going through this, I still have the thoughts that I'm not doing enough, and that I need to be constantly doing, and that I need to do it or it doesn't get done. So
big one. That one? I need to do it or it doesn't get done. That's a big one. Thank you.
And then other favorite thoughts is just you're not making this working mom thing work. So being a business owner and a working mom, I feel I've been failing at both. Makes me believe, that I can't have it all. And then I get a lot of guilt. So if I do decide to take some time for myself, I'm so guilty about it. Just I should be doing more for my kid or doing more for my job. And then let's see. Yeah, I tend to take on more than I can handle. And I've been trying to do better at boundaries and saying no, but it definitely just, it was so ingrained in you to do. And then I think the one thing that it's been really apparent recently is just I've forego all of my hobbies in order to be I don't have the time. So I'm so that's been a hard thing to try to figure out right now. From a money finance standpoint, for sure devaluing, that's been in the past, devaluing myself, thinking that I need to really put in the effort in order to achieve a certain financial success or amount. And then I think on the physical, mental, for sure, anxiety, a lot of anger, impatience, guilt, as mentioned, love and relationships. I think now it's just lacking that time together, because I'm focused on my two babies, my business and my actual baby. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you. Isn't it interesting how we have this, that kind of grinder pattern from our 9-to-5, our corporate job, our past world, and we can change the circumstances, but the behaviors can stay the same. And now, 2 other kids trying to figure out how to balance it all. Were there any revelations that you connected, any new dots here?
I think I think I didn't realize how much the guilt piece, I always think about the guilt piece, but I didn't realize how much guilt that it like kind of gives me until going through this reflection of like, I'll feel guilty all the time if I was like, no, I'm not going to do this right now. I'll do it tomorrow or I'll do it next week. And I still get so much guilt. And I think that all has to do with this whole grinder mentality.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very common. Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad that you created a little bit more awareness around some of these habits and patterns. Excellent. Thank you both for sharing. Now, let's talk about how to move through this and how to move out of this. So by now, you understand your protector strategy, success archetype. You understand that your wound came from beliefs from childhood. You understand that fulfillment isn't possible when operating from the protector self in the wound. Therefore, you need a new solution to heal this system and to let your true self lead. So here's where we go next. How do we heal this system? And how do we let this true self lead? Well, I'm going to give you kind of the 4 steps that will allow you to heal this success wound, because it's really a process of unlearning our social conditioning about what makes a worthwhile life and learning to realign with the person that you were born to be before the world told you who you should be. So this 4-step methodology is really powerful. It's proven. I've taken over 5,000 women through this, both in my one-to-one coaching program, my group coaching program, Finally Fulfilled, and in my workshops. So I know that it works, and I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do in order to kind of heal the system. So step 1 is to diagnose. So you need to figure out how you got here and diagnose what the real problem is so that you can prevent it from recurring and ensure that every step that you take is in the right direction. So you need to diagnose first the protector and its strategies, which you've just done today. Congratulations, you've just taken step 1. You also need to diagnose your success wound. So like any wound, we need to first assess its size and its shape and its depth in order to give us the best treatment. So as you begin to identify the protector and the wound, you'll also start to naturally kind of discern where your true self is, what she feels like in your body, what she sounds like. And in my group coaching program, Finally Fulfilled, that I'll talk about later on, we dive much deeper into that diagnosis section so that you can get a crystal clear picture on both your protector self and your wounded self. Step 2 is to vision. So this is where the rubber meets the road. And this is something that you can do after this session or with some journaling prompts in some instances, the specific actions that are in the email that comes after that quiz. So most people have been operating in such a state of unconsciousness in their work and in their business and in their life that they've lost that kind of connection to who they are and what they want. They've lost that connection to their true self's inner knowing and guidance. So in the vision stage, you're going to get clarity on your true self, what you want, and design an internally guided vision for the career and life that you desperately want. And a lot of what we talked about today, and I would imagine for a lot of people, you guys are doing what you want, but maybe not operating how you want. So this vision can also be for how you show up at work, how you operate free of guilt, from a space of alignment, from integrity, from a place of working sustainably and knowing your worth. The 3rd step is to repair. So we need to repair and heal this internal system so that you can sustainably achieve your vision without sabotage and burnout. So this is where the real transformation happens in order to heal your wounds. And I'm going to give you specific steps that you can take right after this in order to get into that healing space. So, like so many things, you can't fix the problem with the same level of consciousness that created the problem. So often it's very helpful to do this work with a coach, with a therapist, with somebody else who's kind of trained. It's almost like trying to perform brain surgery on yourself. But I'm going to give you a few steps that I recommend people take kind of right after this. And in my group coaching programs and in my one-to-one programs, you get access to the powerful tools that I've helped people take in order to get to this repair stage. And then finally, emerge. So this is where you're in the same skin, but you're no longer feeling like the same self. So this is where you're taking exciting steps to activate on your vision and manifest what I call your magic lane. So for some of this, it may look like entering a new horizon in their business. For others, it might mean being free of guilt, not having that kind of work-life mom guilt. For others, it might be working sustainably, stepping into executive meetings or client meetings with greater confidence, raising your hand more, dating with authenticity, writing your best-selling book, etc. So I'm going to give you a couple very specific actions that the grinder can take, and each of these archetypes can take. So when the grinder is operating from protector and wounding, they're overworking and hustling to prove their worth. But once you've taken these 4 steps, the grinder, when it's operating from its true self, knows their value is in their presence and not their productivity, and they can work sustainably and achieve in the same way, but from a place of wholeness rather than wounding. So here are 3 steps that the grinder can take today, and this is also in your follow-up email after you've taken the quiz. So you can celebrate who you are at your core. So you might love being called the get shit done person, but what are your other incredible attributes aside from the work that you deliver? What are all of those essential qualities of your goodness that people tend to gravitate towards? What do you love most about yourself? What shows up in a room when you do? So journaling on these questions and having those close to you answer some of these questions, you'll get a much better picture of who you are and start to rely on and trust that your power is in your presence rather than just in your productivity. The second tip here is to create new routines. So both in the morning and in the evening, having a routine that intentionally starts and ends your day. So starting with something like a morning meditation and writing down the 5 main things that need to get done today. Don't move on to number 2 until number 1 is complete. Don't move on to number 3 until number 2 is complete. And at the end of the day, take note of the outstanding things that you've done. Close that laptop. What are 3 things that you're proud of? This might sound cliche and a bit rudimentary, but have you actually done these things for 60 days straight? When you do these things for 60 days straight, it creates a habit, it retrains your neuroplasticity, and you will start to operate more from your true self and your wholeness rather than your wounding. I guarantee it. If you actually do those things for 60 days straight, it's going to change everything. And of course, heal your success wound. So healing your success wound, that's the 4 steps above that I just mentioned. For the hider, operating from wounding, this is the person that's staying in their comfort zone and afraid to fail or be embarrassed. Operating from the true self, this is the person that takes small steps outside of their comfort zone into their courage zone and starts to see themselves as brave. So here is your daily practice. I want you to remind yourself that pain is temporary on the road to endless possibilities. So if you're desiring a new way of living or a new possibility, you're going to have to go through the pain of being outside of your comfort zone. But in order to get there, it's absolutely a fact of life. Hiders often think that it's only them that experience the pain of trying something new and forget that this pain is a universal human experience. It can't be avoided. So I love this notion that pain is temporary on the road to endless possibilities. On the other side of that pain, endless possibilities. The second step here, take turtle steps outside of your comfort zone into your courage zone. I like saying turtle step because it's like the smallest next right action that you can possibly take just outside of your comfort zone, like a small turtle leaving its nest and making its way to the ocean. Tiny next right actions lead up to big change. And in my programs, I'm never suggesting people take big, massive swings or steps. It really is just small steps every day outside of your comfort zone to get into the practice of bravery. The third is the lost a lot. So when this person is operating from wounding, they're seeking their purpose through the next thing, right? The next job, the next relationship, the next promotion, thinking that that's going to fix them. But when they're operating from their true self, this is when they're seeking within for the answers and knows that their purpose is in their state of being. So this is somebody who needs to pursue a purpose, not a job. So instead of thinking the next right thing is outside of themselves, actually turning inward and reconnecting with their internal guidance system and asking themselves the question, what do you love to do? What kind of impact do you want to have? What makes a life a meaningful one? Answering these questions, it's the real thing that gets you out of bed. and channel that seeking energy into the pursuit of a purpose rather than just a career, a job, or relationship. Tap into the essence of what you're looking to achieve and turn to that, practice that kind of self-trust and that internal guidance system. So the pleaser, this is somebody who, when they're operating from wounding, it looks like they're seeking approval and stability in relationships at their own expense. But when they're operating from their true self, they're pleasing themselves before others and pursuing respect over likability. That's a big one, pursuing respect over likability. So likability, it's an unstable asset when it comes to leadership and getting things done. Respect, on the other hand, it's much more stable and it's an effective asset. So people who pursue that likability, or respect over likability, are better equipped to make difficult decisions and handle difficult feedback. And then identify and communicate your needs. There's a whole lot of resources in the email if you are kind of that pleaser archetype that you can get in order that I provide to help you identify and communicate your needs. A framework that I love is called nonviolent communication. You can write that down, NVC, nonviolent communication, and you can look at the process that you can take in order to help you identify and communicate your needs. And then finally, for our work hard, play hard, what it looks like to operate from the true self, slowing down and looking inward for soothing and satisfaction. Ways that you can actually do this day to day, choosing intention over inertia. I love this, and I think we all can practice this more frequently. This is, of all the personality types, the work hard, play hard can be running so fast they don't realize how their behavior is impacting themselves and others. So slowing down and asking themselves the question, what is all this for? Is my behavior coming from my true self? How does being busy stop me from being myself? What are the people, places, and habits that truly nourish me? So my work hard, play hard clients do best when they can actually schedule in time with like a coach or a therapist to actually slow down and choose intention over inertia and start to identify their priorities and exclude and cut any of that extra noise so that they can actually hear their internal guidance system. Developing that metacognition. Metacognition is the ability to witness and observe yourself as you're acting. It can be built through meditation, where you practice observing your thoughts and your feelings as they arise. So work hard, play hards do very well with meditation and with moments of pausing and choosing that intention over the inertia. So these are all very tangible tips that everyone can actually take, regardless of their type, in order to have greater fulfillment. So in terms of next steps and things that I want to offer you with, I would love to stay connected. I'm happy to stay on for other questions if you guys have them. I've given you some very specific tips that you can take in terms of what's next and other steps that you can take outside of these tangible ones. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm Brooke V. Taylor. My newsletter is brooketaylorcoaching.com/newsletter. And I teased a little bit that I have a group coaching program that's opening at the end of August, early September. It's called Finally Fulfilled. It goes much deeper into each and every single one of these selves, the true self, the wounded self, and the protector self, and helps you take these steps and actually implement them. So that's brooketaylorcoaching.com/finallyfulfilled. And if you want to speak with me further, if you have questions, if you want to learn more about Finally Fulfilled, if you want to discuss your results, here's the QR code. It'll take me directly to my Calendly page. And you can fill out a couple questions and select a time for us to speak. And I love meeting other people, who are interested in these topics. And, if you stayed on till the end, I think we probably have a lot in common, and I'd love to talk to you about some of these things. Thank you, Adrian. It was good to see you. And I'll stay on to see if there are any questions, but thank you guys so much for spending an hour with me. And I can't wait to see what comes next for you all. Thank you so much.
This was amazing. Thank you so much, Brooke.
Thank you.
It was just like so good. I love how tangible it was and how tangible each of the different, types are that we can all implement. So amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? I'm happy to answer anything else for folks who are still on. I'm not sure.
Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or unmute yourself. I'm going to drop our events feedback form in the chat. I know everyone's dropping really great feedback, but if you want to submit it formally, we'd love to hear what you think and pass it along to Brooke.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, Hannah. This was really fun.
Of course. Thank you so much. This was amazing.
Okay.
Oh, have a great day.
Take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you.